Okay, Gay, this reaction video is going to be on the economics of America, the collapsing of the United States, and from an economic perspective, I believe we should have been through this at a heavy hand when back in '08, '09, but we did not do all the from economists things we could have done to prevent or slow down some of this upheaval that we see across the nation, most of all the states. But the main ones, the more sovereign, the financially large budgets states are crumbling now, economically speaking, and we're seeing it. So we're gonna react to this economy. This person that's I believe is talking about economics. He sounds like an economist, but he's giving great information. I'm in Washington State. He's talking about our state. We got all this going on here, but we have a lot of companies leaving the state, going to Texas, Florida, Tennessee, other areas for better taxable platforms and different other reasons, various reasons. So, without further ado, let's get into this because there is this a collapse coming, economically speaking, and we can't do nothing about it because we're $40 trillion in debt and we're just paying the interest. So that's the American people. We're not taxed on it, but that's what pays the interest and the principal or the federal tax system pays, and we're the citizens that pay them tax. So in essence, we are the ones being taxed uh, to cover that debt. So our kids going to have to pay it. So we got to find out a way where we can offset this or change this because we don't want the markets to be called in. But without further ado, that's what it seems to be happening. And let's hear this from the appears to be an economist. Allegedly, I don't know for sure, but he has a lot of great information. And I want to react to this because I think it'll help the American people, especially the American youth that's coming into the workforce and looking for careers, houses. You got to be mindful. You might have to move around the nation for better pay, better amenities, opportunities. That the cost of living adjustment is changing in different states. Tax brackets are changing. Different policies are coming in. So you got to be aware of this. We don't really get too much of this in the K through 12 system. And in college, it's a choice. You got to pick the program to go in this space. So without further ado, let's get into it. He gives them positive information. You can look it up yourself. Uh, I haven't fact checked him, but it sounds interesting. Let's go. Yeah, I was just like, wow, this guy got some information that I want to give to the rest of America. Uh, let's go. You learn from yourself.
9.4 trillion. That is how much the United States government owes as of this summer. But I do not want you to think about the number. I want you to think about the speed. The debt is growing at $7.4 billion per day, $308 million per hour, $85,000 every second you sit here watching this video. And
Isn't that crazy? 80%. Man, come on. This is crazy. A second. He got it down to the second how much the debt of that 39 trillion, 40 trillion that we experience in the United States of America have, and the interest rates of how much we have to pay. So there's going to be pressure. Hey man, the United States is under pressure, economically speaking, with this deficit. So we can't shake the truth. This is reality. And this guy is a little like a comedy. Look at his eyes. He just showing you the numbers. The numbers make sense. Forget what he's saying. Look at the numbers. Look at the stat. And it'll tell you how we're doing. Let's go.
the interest payments alone, just the cost of servicing what has already been borrowed, have now crossed $1 trillion a year. That is more than the United States spends on Medicare, more than Veterans Affairs, Education, and Homeland Security combined. The federal government is now spending more to service its past than to invest in its future. But here is what nobody in Washington will say out loud.
Let's talk. I want you to miss that. He said they are servicing the past. The government, federal government, is servicing what's already done and not looking at the future because they got to get a hold of what's already the debt. And you're gonna have interest and stuff, but first we got to start chopping that debt down, and that's what the administration, the federal government, is looking at this present time. And so, like the president's doing a lot of things, cut people off of different benefits that shouldn't be getting benefits because they didn't do it before, but now new policies that's nonprofits, groups, think tanks have pushed agendas in the federal government, and they have been taken up. And now we're seeing the problems that come out economic. It's good to have emotions and feelings about situation, community, people, but you got to worry about the deficit. And nobody was worrying about it because I live for a day, not for tomorrow. But now tomorrow is to today, and we got to deal with it. So let's continue.
That $1 trillion interest bill does not land evenly. It concentrates, it pools, it finds the cracks in the foundation, and it pours through. And when the next recession arrives and the GDP numbers are already flashing amber, growth slowing from 2.1% in the first quarter of 2026 to 1.5% in the second, it will not hit every state equally. Some states will bend, some will break, and a handful are already so structurally compromised that a recession is not the disease, it is the autopsy.
If you're not aware of what's going on with your state economic, and that's why we react to this video, because he's going to give us some breakdowns and it's going to hit hard. My state, even the state where I'm thinking about moving to, he's going to break down some information. And I'm like, wow. But at least I'm aware and I can navigate and to get myself in a better position, because that's what it's coming down to. The whole system is uh, without further ado, let's like Illinois, Chicago. That's horrible. 700 some debt billion in the school district. Eventually, they think Illinois is going to be one of the states that's going to break. Not bend, but break, and it's going to go into a recession. You're going to have to file bankruptcy to be able to accumulate, get out of it, and reset something. But I think that's going to come across the whole nation. That's just my opinion. I'm not an expert, but I see it even in my state of Washington. And guess what? The state of Washington's on here, but he said some points, but he didn't. He's not from the state of Washington. He's looking at statistic analysis that's very at the state, federal level that he could see, and he's drawing his conclusions on graphs and systems, and allegedly that I think. But let's continue.
Recession is not the disease, it is the autopsy. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 21 states most likely to fracture first, not because of panic, not because of politics, but because of math. Let me start with what I call the fragility index. The idea
Fragility index. Fragility. The word fragility means fragile, and then he said that he's gonna talk to states that not what you talking about politics, all this stuff is in the media, and everything. He's saying math. So I think I thought I don't know if he's a mathematician or economist, but he's looking at the numbers, economic, what we talk under the sphere of economics. So you can get some really good information so you can draw upon it. Just be patient. Look at what he demands saying, and we're gonna move forward on this because this is great information.
that a state's vulnerability is not measured by how wealthy it looks, but by three factors: concentration risk, how dependent the economy is on a narrow band of industries; fiscal elasticity, how fast revenues collapse when consumer behavior changes; and exit velocity, how quickly people and businesses are already leaving. When all three converge, you do not get a slowdown, you get a structural failure. Number 21, Michigan. The state that
Okay, I'm talking about my state. What he just said. Uh, our infrastructure is really horrible. We might look good. We got the Super Bowl champions. That's good to make you feel something. We got beautiful surrounding. We got the sound. We got mountains. We got hiking. Everything up here. But our infrastructure is set by tech company, aerospace, uh, them are two major organization, and we got some forestry stuff up here, but that's not holding a lot of weight like the other two. Real estate, and now all of them three conglomerates that's really holding the infrastructure of employment, tax base, everything. They're now leaving. They're already left. Boeing is in Carolinas, headquarters moving somewhere else. Uh, Starbucks has went to Tennessee. Global headquarters here technically means, what does that mean? I grew up with American when corporations said the headquarters meant that's where the tax base was centralized. Uh, Also, all the tech companies are moving down south, Texas, Florida, other states. So therefore, there's not a lot of, so we're, then what happens? The employees follow the job, so that takes away from the tax base, sell homes or foreclose homes or whatever they have to do to keep going on with what they need to go. Uh, this is what you see in Washington. A lot of we done lost our we got we're getting credit brand allegedly where we're about possibly Washington State will be getting a lower credit rating. We're right now we're in a negative, I believe, not allegedly. So they're supposed to come back, Moody or some credit, gonna do a state another audit and see what kind of credit rating we're supposed to have. But when they come back then, I know it's going to be a hit rock because there's more companies, more people leaving, less coming in. Let's continue. So all that look good, all that glitter, don't mean it's gold.
built the American middle class is struggling to hold on to it. Manufacturing is roughly 18% of GDP, and the automotive sector alone supports more than 170,000 direct jobs. But that industry is in the most expensive transition in its history. Electric vehicles require fewer parts, fewer suppliers, fewer workers per unit. Detroit's Big Three have all announced restructuring, and supplier towns from Flint to Saginaw absorbed those decisions first. Detroit has lost more than half its residents since 1970 and still carries the legacy cost of a bankruptcy. It exited in 2014.
That's the difference with Detroit. Detroit is going to be saved by the heavy cold winters, and you want to have a diesel motor, combustive engine to be able to maintain. So there always going to be a certain slight. I think that's what's going to save a percentage of the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit, the major city of Detroit, the big three there. That's going to be saved because of them heavy winters. They're going to always need that combustive engine. I don't care how many electric cars they build. So I think that might be a counter active ingredient to this bankruptcy problem. But he talks about this in Michigan. So there's going to be a lot of states. A lot of states going to be filing bankruptcy. Let's see.
Median household income sits near $69,000, below the national figure, while insurance rates rank among the highest in the nation. Michigan is not fragile because it is poor. It is fragile because its entire economy is tethered to one industry rewriting its own rules. Number 20, Oregon. No sales tax at all, which means personal income taxes fund roughly 68% of the general fund, one of the most elastic revenue structures in America. When incomes fall, Oregon's budget falls with them immediately and without a cushion. Intel, The state's largest private employer has cut thousands of positions. Nike has trimmed its corporate workforce. Portland's downtown office vacancy has climbed past 30%, and assessed commercial values are falling with it. The pension system carries unfunded liabilities of roughly $28 billion, with required contributions still rising. After decades of steady in-migration, Oregon has now recorded consecutive years of population decline. When a state with no sales tax loses taxpayers and tech jobs at once, there is nowhere left for revenue to come from. Number 19.
That's what's happening in Washington. We're having that same. We got 38%, 37% of downtown Seattle vacancy, and tech companies are leaving. Like I said earlier, everything they said about Oregon is happening in Washington at a higher rate, and we have more tech companies, and they're getting rid of them. So, nevertheless, this is happening across the nation, and so a lot of people leaving. And when you have a state that can hold the population, then you have these problems. So we'll see. Let's continue.
One of the wealthiest states by median income and one of the most indebted by almost every measure that matters. Combined debt, pension, and retiree healthcare obligations exceed $85 billion, among the highest per resident burdens in the nation. The revenue base is dangerously concentrated. A very small number of high earners in Fairfield County account for a disproportionate share of receipts. When markets correct, Connecticut's revenue does not decline, it falls off a shelf. Hartford's office vacancy now exceeds 20%. The population has barely grown in 2 decades, and high-income residents are relocating to Florida in measurable numbers. Connecticut's problem is not a lack of wealth. It is that its wealth is mobile and its obligations are not. Number 18.
That's what happened on the East Coast, predominantly in New York, Jersey, all them cities. They're moving out. The rich is moving out and going down south where their money can maintain them, and the policies are not so detrimental, draconian to them, and they be able to invest and maintain their livelihoods. And that's what happened to most of America. I think the country's becoming more mobile. No one is really dedicated to one state because of all of the state infrastructures just shifting. So there's going to be a lot of downsizing, a lot of bankruptcy filings that's coming. This is the great economic recession that's going to come. We're seeing it. This is on the wall.
New Mexico. Roughly 1/3 of general fund.
Okay, we're going to pass some of this. We want to get to some. You got Georgia. We're gonna get some of this. It's gonna be crazy. I'm just trying to show you guys some things.
Number 15, Washington. On the surface, bulletproof, Seattle skyline, Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, median household income at $97,000. But that number is a mirage. Home prices across the Seattle metro hover around $790,000. After taxes, housing, and healthcare, most families have almost nothing left. And the engine is far less diversified than it appears. Technology, aerospace, shipping, 3 industries, 3 points of failure. Those 3 companies alone employ more than 400,000 workers, and all 3 are tightening budgets, pausing hiring, and moving operations overseas. A modest 10% reduction wipes out 40,000 jobs overnight. And with no income tax and heavy reliance on sales taxes, every percentage point drop in consumer spending drains hundreds of millions from the budget. That is not resilience. That is a house of cards waiting for the win. Number 14.
This he's talking about overseas, but now these aerospace are moving to other states, and that's the reality. So it's overseas and in other states. So we seeing the whole American economy. The Washington state is falling. Okay, let's do towards some of his. There's 21 states. You got Texas, California, uh, Florida, New York. He says Illinois is definitely going to be a state that falls. Illinois is definitely a state that's falling. Um, and they're having severe problems.
In 12 months and tell me whether I was right or wrong. Now, 3 things to watch in the coming months. First, the monthly Treasury statements. Interest payments are running at roughly $24 billion per week. The number that matters is net interest as a share of total outlays. It is currently 14%. When it crosses 16, the math changes for every state in the country. Second, the migration data. The IRS publishes annual flows showing exactly where taxable income is moving. When you see California, New York, Illinois, and New Jersey flowing into Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and Nevada, you are not seeing lifestyle choices. You are seeing a tax base physically relocating. That is a leading indicator most analysts still underweight. Third, and this matters most for your household, watch your own exposure. If you live in one of these 21 states, the question is not whether the state will feel pressure. It is whether your finances are positioned to absorb it. Property taxes, insurance premiums, cost of living. These are the channels through which state-level fiscal stress reaches your kitchen table. And if
This is the reality. So I'm in on that note. He's taking 3 points to look at. You can see the economic collapse in the 3 points, and we got to watch our economics, our financial requirements. So, nevertheless, be prepared for what's happening in the American economy. So I'm telling every American just watch the economic turn down and be able to isolate your revenue and your family and protect them. If you got to move to a different state, don't be held on one state anymore.